Greetings, Eric Kamen here with the Joy of Homesteading. I'm going to show you how to prepare your raised beds that you just put together to try and turn this into an abundant garden. So when we filled up our garden beds, we took a shovel, one shovel at a time. We put our soil in there. The soil that we bought was some sifted soil that was rock-free. Anytime you're breaking up that soil, anytime you're exposing the soil to sunlight, it's killing the life in the soil. It looks like it would be a nice garden, but that look would be deceiving. This is a lifeless, dead soil. You might as well just call it dirt. We need to establish the microbe population back into this soil. It needs to be covered with vegetation or a leaf litter or a mulch all year round. We don't want it exposed to the sunlight like that, to the wind. So the first thing we're going to do is we're going to put a fertilizer in this that is a natural type of fertilizer. This is Dr. Earth Pure Gold. They have a whole bunch of different bacterias and beneficial funguses in it, and what this is made out of is alfalfa, fish bone meal, potassium sulfate, and kelp. And it says when you're establishing a raised bed, you need to put 3/4 of a cup per 10 square feet. So these are 4x8 beds, so it's 32 square feet thereabouts. So you're going to put 3/4 of a cup every third. So I take a rake and I kind of loosen it up, and then you just come along and you just start sifting this into the soil right on the top, and then we'll mix it in with a rake. So this is going to first inoculate some bacteria into the soil, and it's going to inoculate some funguses into the soil as well. And it's not super critical that you get that number 100% right, but about 3/4 of a cup per every 10 square feet. And I just spread that across the surface. Right like that. I made sure to shake this bag really well before I began so that it would be mixed up. So that's all the fertilizer I need. And I take a rake and I'm going to mix it into the soil down to, say, 2 or 3 inches. Just mix it all up. Is this where I'm supposed to say that we're establishing just a happy little garden over here? The next strategy that I'm going to incorporate after I mix this up is that I'm going to seed this with a cover crop. All right, that's mixed up. This is my next stage. This is white clover seed. This is a coated seed. It's got an inoculant that's coated the seed. So basically it has a beneficial bacteria that's covered the seed. And when it starts to grow, this seed will form a symbiotic relationship with the bacteria that's covering the seed, and it will fix nitrogen from the air and form little nodules on the roots that will put nitrogen into the soil. Nitrogen is a fertilizer. So this clover is going to do 2 things. It's going to help build organic matter. I guess it's going to do a lot more than 2 things. It's going to build organic matter. It's going to help retain moisture by being a living mulch over the surface of the soil. It's an edible plant. You can eat a clover if you wanted to. It's going to act as a fertilizer. A little bit goes a long way. I think a pound of this is about $5. I'm just going to take another rake, just like a leaf rake, work that into the surface. just a little bit. I don't want to really bury that seed a whole lot. I do want to cover it up. All right. Now, here's the fun part. Here's the other option. So that's going to grow. That's going to turn into a living mulch. You could use like a wood mulch if you wanted to instead of a living mulch. I think getting plants growing, that's going to help start to build soil fertility. I'm going to plant this bed in onions as well. I'm going to plant the whole thing in onions. I did that to that bed. I figured I can roughly get about 130 onions to one of these 4x8 beds. So a lot of these onions aren't going to make it. As the season comes on and I start to be able to put other plants outside, I'm just going to rip a hole in the living mulch in the clover. I'm going to rip onions out and eat them, and then plant my other plants in the onions. I just use like a little bit of a stick I can find, and then I just go through making rows. So I'll just show you that right quick. Let me grab some onions. I space them about 4 inches apart. This bed I'm doing onions in, that bed I did onions in. The next bed that I do, I'm going to go ahead and plant those in peas. I'll just do peas. Guess I don't even need a stick for a lot of this. So I just go through and I'm just planting onions every 4 or 5 inches, making rows. Just like that. The whole bed's going to get planted. And then I'll tell you what I'm going to do for the next part of my fertility here. I've got fish and kelp here. You put 2 ounces to a gallon. Once I get all the onions planted, I'm going to put that in a sprayer like that. I'm going to cover the whole bed in that. That puts minerals and more fertilizer into the soil, more organic fertilizer. And then I'm going to water it in really good and make sure that the water stays in there, and it helps establish my cover crop, my white clover that I'm putting in. And that's it. That's how I'm going to establish these. That's going to start to build microorganisms in the soil. After that, you could use compost to help get more bacteria and funguses in there. But if you don't have any compost, this is off-the-shelf ingredients that you can use to go ahead and get started. I'm just going to finish out, and then that's it. That's all there is to it. You can continue to watch if you want, but go ahead and hit that like button. Now I'm going to mix up some stinky old fish and kelp. 2 ounces to a gallon of water. That up. And then after we get this in, we'll water it in real good. Remember, the soil cannot stay bare. You have to put something on it. Whether that's a plant, that's a living mulch, or whether that's like a dead mulch, like sticks and leaves and stuff, you have to cover the soil. It cannot stay bare. If you don't cover it, nature is going to cover it for you. And it's going to be something that you don't want. All right, and then we're just going to water the whole thing in. Now be careful watering up until your plant's established, because you can wash this soil out pretty easily. I'll show you an update in a week and let you know how it's looking.